Well, it is dangerous. I can tell you that if we did not treat it, she would not have survived.
Life or death on the smallest of scales. How surgical superglue saved this newborn's life. Now, 9 years later, her doctors reunite with this happy, healthy little girl. Good morning. It is Monday, March 20th. I'm Jessica Lovell, and welcome to the Morning Medical Update. The tiniest patients need the tiniest of tools and the steady hands of expert surgeons. Back in 2013, news headlines called this newborn Superglue baby. But it wasn't just the glue that saved little Ashlyn's life. It was the doctors who were willing to take a risk and do something that had never been done before on a baby. Today, we are so happy to reunite now 9-year-old Ashlyn and her mom Gina with the doctors who helped save Ashlyn's life. But before we jump in, let's look back and ask, where are they now?
3-week-old Ashlyn Julian naps contently in her bassinet inside the pediatric intensive care unit at the University of Kansas Hospital. Just 2 days earlier, her parents, Gina and Jared, knew something was terribly wrong.
This baby from day one has never been a huge crier, and this child had been screaming. So she was very stiff and then very ragdoll limp, and then kind of not super responsive.
Ashlyn had suffered a stroke in the strictest sense of the word. Not once, but twice she bled from an aneurysm or weak spot in the blood vessel deep inside her brain. Something so rare in neonates or infants less than 28 days old. There are only 17 known cases since 1949.
She's so small, and she bled 2 times that the brain was imminently angry. If we do not do something, this aneurysm is going to take her life. Yeah. So you're willing to take on a fair amount of risk.
Doctors have been fixing aneurysms surgically for 50 years, but with infants, each drop of blood is so precious, Dr. Ebersol did not want to cut into Ashlyn's brain.
Surgery has always been the mainstay. In adults, this procedure here, entry here, is extremely well tolerated. In kids, you can get internal bleeding that is hard to detect.
Using instruments as small as a pencil lead and a strand of human hair, Dr. Ebersol maneuvered a drop of sterile superglue through Ashlyn's body to her brain. It was his colleague, Dr. Alan Reeves, an interventional radiologist, who determined Ashlyn's tiny blood vessels, about the size of angel hair pasta, could tolerate the procedure.
There would have been no procedure if we can't get into this blood vessel. Yeah.
Dr. Reeves found a path starting at Ashlyn's hip. Once inside, Dr. Ebersol delivered the life-saving superglue in less than 30 minutes.
I was essentially giving myself a time frame. In my mind, I said, I have to accomplish this in a very short amount of time. This is either going to work quickly, or we're going to call this a day, figure out what this is, and then go to the operating room.
Doctors don't know why Ashlyn suffered a brain bleed. Her parents say it's hard to comprehend. They are overwhelmed and overjoyed she is safe.
I think she can have a normal life.
And joining us now virtually is Ashlyn and her mom, Gina. Good morning, girls. How are you both doing today?
Good.
Good.
So good to see you both. Also here in studio with me are 2 doctors involved in that surgery 9 years ago. Dr. Koji Ebersol is the Director of Endovascular Neurosurgery here at the University of Kansas Health System, and Dr. Alan Reeves is the Director of Interventional Radiology, also with the health system. And Dr. Ebersol, you look quite young in those pictures. We were just noticing you. It seems like so long ago, 9 years, right?
No, all this gray hair happened after that case.
Exactly. I know. It has done its work on you, but all good stuff. Gina, just watching that story from 9 years ago, what do you remember most from back then?
It actually gives me tears watching it because it was extremely stressful, to be honest, obviously.
To be honest.
And very frightening.
Ashlyn, what are your thoughts when you see that?
I was getting tears also, and also I was very scared.
Well, no, hopefully no tears now because you're doing so well. We want to look at some pictures and share some photos of you growing up over the past 9 years. Gina, what's it like to be able to see all these amazing milestones?
Amazing, because honestly, I don't think anyone really knew what was going to happen with her. Everybody says she'll have a normal life, but who knows, right? Your child suffered a stroke and major brain bleed and whatnot. So every little thing that she did is amazing.
Dr. Ebersol, take us back to 2013. A three-week-old has an aneurysm. Why would that happen?
I will tell you that we don't know for sure, but I am very suspicious that it was 1 in 10 million chance trauma during birth. The brain, as you know, has a left and right half, and in the middle there's a relatively rigid dividing line. And that thing, if you have pressure on it, can traumatize a vessel underneath it. That's exactly the vessel that had the aneurysm on it. So I'm suspicious.
And rare.
Oh, for sure.
Very rare. So talk to us about this medical grade super glue. It's used pretty often, but had you ever used it in this manner before?
It's a very useful tool. It is very much super glue. It's designed to activate in a liquid environment. So it is made to do work inside of blood vessels. It's just typically we don't have to do it on a patient so small. For example, we don't even have any surgical instruments for patients of this size. Everything we had to use are for adults. And so the instrument was this long, and I only needed this much of it to get the job done.
So how are you working in that kind of condition? She comes to you, you need to act fast. What was it like? I always like to kind of know what that teamwork was like when you're all trying to have conversation and make this all come together.
Right. Well, to be clear, it was not a unilateral decision about what way to go. When the child came to us, we needed the help of our pediatric ICU team to make sure that Ashlyn was going to be safe overnight while we were preparing the surgical team for the morning. And then in the morning, she had another event, and so we had to go to the scanner and found out that she had another bleed from the aneurysm, so it's raising the stakes. But aneurysms bleed in spurts, so it's not as though you need to rush in there to actively stop the bleeding. You want to do the treatment to prevent another bleed in the near future. So when I started the case, her vessels were so small I couldn't even make the access. That's how Dr. Reeves helped us with his expertise. I remember him saying something to the effect of, I spend my whole career putting needles into tiny places. I can do it. And as soon as he put his hands on the instruments, he achieved the access that allowed us to deliver the instruments.
So you step in, Dr. Reeves. You're running this tiny catheter through a tiny blood vessel. Help us understand what an interventional radiologist is doing moment to moment during a procedure like this.
Sure. So I'm an interventional neuroradiologist. It's basically minimally invasive surgery on the blood vessels using images to guide our procedures. So we use very high powerful x-rays, ultrasound. These allow us to see the instruments and the blood vessels at the same time. You have to think very three-dimensionally and spatially, particularly when my partner, Dr. Ebersol, gets to the point of being inside the brain. You really have to be able to understand what you're seeing in 2 dimensions and then translate it to what you're doing with your hands inside tiny blood vessels.
So how did you determine it was going to be possible? You got big hands, big instruments, tiny vessels. How did you know it could tolerate this catheter and going in there?
Well, all of our equipment is designed to be used inside of blood vessels, and it's tiny. They're tiny instruments, and our companies spend a lot of time and money and expertise to develop these instruments that are designed to work inside of blood vessels. So we knew they could work inside her blood vessels as well. The difference is like he said, these are designed to be working inside of humans that are bigger than babies. So it wasn't a question of whether or not the instruments could work inside the blood vessels. If you want to spend a lot of money, you could go out and buy these same instruments. The difference is the operator on the other side of the instruments. That's the game changer.
It's you. You're the difference.
Well, we both have done a lot of this. You know, I've been working with him for a long time, and he approached this case just like he would approach a case that came in today, whether you're 60 or 70 or a baby. There was meticulous planning, there was decision making about the instruments that are going to be needed, there was preparation, there was a team approach to this case. So I believe that he did this case exactly like he would do a case today, which is with the utmost care and diligence. So the difference is not the tools per se, it's the operator.
Yeah, and the planning that goes into it. We always say, we call them these miracle cases. You know, Dr. Ebersol, and you're the team they call when these rare, unusual moments happen. Gina, you told us that Ashlyn is still dealing with some effects from the aneurysm, seizures, but specifically on one part of the body. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Tell us about that.
She has seizures in her right leg only. So after the procedure and until she was approximately 2 years old, she was on anticonvulsants. And then they decided, hey, we don't think she needs these anymore. We don't think that she actually has a seizure disorder. We think it was about the pressure in the brain, so let's eliminate it. And by around age 3.5, she was doing this thing that we would call a wiggly leg. And we obviously are still followed by neurology, neurosurgery, pediatrician, everybody. And to describe it is very hard, and to see it is even harder. And it happened so fast I couldn't catch it on my phone to show it to them. And everyone's like, we don't know what that is. So honestly, I was watching Netflix, weirdly enough, and was watching a series with a New York Times doctor who was doing something with New York Times anyway, about weird things that happen to people and can you help us diagnose them? And there was a little girl on there who was having seizures in her singular body parts. And I'm like, oh, that's my daughter. And sure enough, that's what it was. We got them to do an EEG on her, and she was firing off pretty heavily, around 116 seizures in that 72 hours.
Dr. Ebersol, what do you make of that?
Well, I will say that the aneurysm involved a blood vessel that most specifically controls the movement of the right leg. So at the time of the emergency, we were willing to accept potential dysfunction, potentially severe, in the right leg to save Ashlyn's life. So when we closed the blood vessel, we knew that that territory, already injured by the aneurysm and the bleeding, was also at risk of change from our procedure itself. I think in an adult, the outcome would not be anywhere close to what Ashlyn was able to achieve, but she was so small. Her brain was not yet hardwired. She still had the ability to rebuild the circuitry around an injured area of the brain. So if she's able to dance and run around and enjoy time with her friends, I accept that completely.
Well, and on that note, what is it like seeing Ashlyn today, 9 years later?
Oh, it's outstanding. Everybody loves this story, Ashlyn. You're famous around this hospital. So, to be honest, I think there's a lot of this, our hospital understanding how important it is to publicize these stories so that the public knows about the expertise that is available at KU and what advancements are happening in medicine to keep our citizens healthy. All of that happened following your story. Your story went viral before going viral was a thing.
Absolutely. Dr. Reese, what's it like to see her sitting here with us today?
You know, it's great. And hi, Ashlyn. Last time I saw you, you were about like this big. So it's really refreshing. You know, I feel like we get up and we go to work and we do our job that we're supposed to do, but we don't sometimes see the end result or prolonged result. And so it's amazing to see her sitting here smiling and talking with us. It feels like we're doing the right thing when we do this.
Pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it feels great.
All right, Ashlyn, you're up. So what do you like to do? Tell us all about it.
Well, in specials, I really like to learn how to type and stuff. And also, in art, I like to paint things. Well, lots of things.
I love that. And you're just enjoying life and spending time with friends and family. What's that like?
Well, it's enjoying, and I just feel like I am a part, like I'm a part of something.
You are. You sure are, in really, really big ways. And I know you're about ready to turn 10 years old. My daughter's turning 10 years old in about a month, too. You guys are right neck and neck. What do you want to do for your birthday? What's the big plan?
Ooh, very much. I would like to have a theme for my birthday, mostly.
What theme?
Baby Yoda.
Oh.
Baby Yoda. Oh, yeah. My kids are loving Baby Yoda and Wednesday. Those are like the biggies right now. Yeah. Wednesday. That's fun. Okay, so I have to ask you, because Dr. Ebersol brought it up, you're a big deal around this hospital, but you're also a big deal around the whole world. Gina, we asked you, having your daughter be called the Superglue baby, what was that like back then?
It was interesting. People that I knew from different parts of the world had seen her story and reached out. People I hadn't spoken to since high school or college reached out to see how she was. And even now, as she has grown up, I've met people who were like, oh, my mom or dad were treated by Koji, and we saw her picture, and oh my gosh, her story's remarkable. So it still continues to kind of follow us today.
And Ashlyn, what's it like? I mean, you're almost 10 years old, but to have a big story to tell already in your short life, what's it like when you hear these stories?
Well, I would say kind of like interesting.
You gonna share that with people?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I bet. Do people ask you about it?
No. Not really.
Yeah, because you're just kind of a normal 10-year-old now, and we love that. That's why we wanted to check in with you, and we're just so glad to see you doing well. If you have questions for Ashlyn, Gina, or the doctors here, Dr. Ebersol or Dr. Reeves, you can share them on YouTube, Facebook, and the Medical News Network. You can find links to those there on your screen. Let's get a quick check on our COVID count with Dr. Dana Hawkinson, Medical Director of Infection Prevention and Control. Always a good day, a good Monday to start out with a where are they now, right?
Yes, Ashlyn is kind of a big deal. I don't know if you've heard.
Yes.
And it's always good to work with these two. It's people like these, it's physicians like these that were always the top in their med school class, and look what they're doing now, doing all these things. I wasn't, but I'm still a doctor, so that's good as well. And being an ID doc, I'm always viral, it seems. So.
Yeah.
Good one.
Ooh, I like that. That's good.
So for the COVID count right now, again, in the hospital, total cases are really about the same. 49 total cases, 33 active cases. So what we've seen these past couple weeks is some increases and then kind of back down to the low 30s or high 20s. Right now we have 33 active cases, 6 in the ICU and 3 on the ventilator. So unfortunately, still a pretty good proportion with severe illness in the ICU and on the ventilator.
All right, Doc Hawk, headlines for you this morning about the origins of the COVID-19 virus. A French scientist found a new clue uploaded by a Chinese research team. DNA sequences from a market in Wuhan suggest the virus spilled over from an animal to a human. That's still the leading theory, but it's difficult to take other theories like the lab leak theory off the table, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we need to do the due diligence in looking. The vast amount of the supportive data for the origin of COVID-19 continues to support natural spillover event or events, probably centered around the Wuhan market, not the Wuhan virology lab. We know that there were 2 very good papers in the middle part of last year. This now is more information as well. There will be some more analysis of that. But it's really looking like these genetic sequences were taken in the market. There also obviously are political ramifications and political concerns. There is still a concern from China that it didn't originate in China. Again, the best supportive data does suggest that it did originate in China in that Wuhan market. But there are concerns for that and political issues, so it is hard to get accurate data, but we also know that there's a political agenda here in the United States continuing to press the lab leak theory when, again, most of the peer-reviewed, really good science continues to support the Wuhan market as the epicenter of that. So we'll continue to look for more information on that, but you know, we got to really try to divorce science from political gains and political reasons. And right now, the science supports that the pandemic started probably in that market area.
Do we have any reporter questions on the line today? Let's get to our community. And Doc Hawk, I'm going to stay with you because Georgianne, one of our faithful viewers, she tested positive for COVID over the weekend. She says, fortunately, it's been a mild case, but she wants to know if she just wants to know what the protocol is recommended for an older person. She's 69 years old. She's had all of her COVID vaccines and shots, flu shots. Just, is there anything special she should do? And curious about what the current COVID strain is like right now.
Yeah, I mean, so clinically, depending on when your symptoms started, I would talk with your physician or your medical team. Talk to them about getting on Paxlovid. If you are in that higher age range, meaning above 60 or 65, if you have any other comorbid conditions, you know, Paxlovid is likely going to be helpful for you to help reduce your risk of hospitalization. But you need to talk with your medical team about that. And really, you should be 7 days or less from when your symptoms started to get Paxlovid therapy. That being said, really, you know, the current public health protocol is that really about 5 days after symptoms started, you are able to go back out into society. You just need to be wearing a mask until that 10th day. So as long as you're feeling okay, you technically can go out and do what you need to do. But certainly if you want to stay home and try to help reduce the spread, that's reasonable as well. As far as any new variants, we really haven't seen too much come in the news. All of the variants that we have seen recently have continued to be from that Omicron variant, and they are sublineages of that. And really, again, our antivirals and our vaccines continue to provide good protection against that as well. But we will continue to look for any other new variants that may be on the rise also.
Ruth Allen has a question, and Dr. Reeves, you had mentioned it earlier. She's curious, so are there smaller instruments for infants available, or do you just have to work with what you have? And you mentioned it's the user on the other end.
Right. Basically, no. We have the instruments that we have, and they're designed to be working inside of adults. Really, the biggest difference is the length of the instrument then. The diameter of the instrument is still small enough to work inside most small blood vessels, which would be a baby or a child. It's just the overall length of the instrument is much longer to accommodate getting to an adult's brain.
Eric wants to know, is there still super glue in Ashlyn's brain, or did that dissolve?
It's probably gone at this point.
Okay. That's a good question, though. Good to know. I think we're good with our community questions, so I want to get today's takeaway. And I want to start with Ashlyn and Gina. Ladies, kind of what do you want folks to know as they head out today? Oh, we're having trouble hearing you.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Probably let them to know probably what happened to me, like my bump on my head, my seizure on my leg, noodle, only those, because I don't remember anything else.
Well,
So
you've just been
she has a drain. That's what she calls her noodle. So, but
that's a term we can understand.
Yes, exactly. She calls it a noodle. But yeah, no, she's perfectly healthy, perfectly happy, and can basically do anything anyone else can do.
And that gives a lot of people a lot of hope. Gina, your final takeaway from our conversation today.
She's remarkable, and I appreciate the doctors so much for everything that they did for her and for us.
Thank you both for being with us this morning, and we'll check back and find out where you are now, years from now, and you're going to be doing great, and we're so excited to watch you. Watch you hit all those milestones. Dr. Ebersol, takeaway today.
Oh, I'm just so happy to see Ashlyn doing well. I think that's what's amazing about modern technology, is that you can solve these problems that can be life-changing in minimally invasive ways. So if Ashlyn is running around on the playground, you would never know that she had an event in her life that put her life at risk. I think that's fantastic.
Dr. Reeves.
My takeaway is I want to thank Ashlyn for being a cute, charming girl that is, it makes us look good, but really we're just happy that we're able to help, and it's so refreshing and nice to see this. So thank you, Ashlyn.
Glad we could bring you all together. Dr. Hawkinson.
Yeah, I'm just happy on this cold Monday that we have Dr. Ebersol, Dr. Reeves, and Ashlyn, her mother, here to share that story. So good job, Ashlyn. Keep working, and get ready for the end of the school year. You're getting close. And then have a great summer.
That's right. Big birthday coming up.
Right.
Our health system is expanding even further this morning. A brand new clinic is opening in South Overland Park. Let's go live to Corbin Park near 135th and Metcalf, where Ryan Van Nuys is Ambulatory Operations Project Manager for the health system. Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. So tell us about this clinic. How did it come about?
So it all started about over a year and a half ago, where we got news from our real estate director that there was an opportunity to take over the lease of 3 adjacent retail locations here at Corbin Park in Overland Park. And we were really excited about the opportunity because it's a really neat and a vibrant place. And we thought that patients would be really excited about the opportunity to have a clinic here as well. So we put together a plan of what all we could fit in the space and who might inhabit the space. And once that got approved, we started work on taking that plan and refining it lots and lots of times with our architects and with the vendors who gave us these beautiful walls you can see behind me, and teams across the health system to revise that plan to get it down to exactly what we needed it to be. Then over the last several months, our construction team has been working with contractors to build us the space, and then dozens of other teams have been collaborating to make sure the clinic has everything that it needs. And we're almost ready to go.
And when will it open to patients?
It'll open to patients next week, starting on Monday, March 27th. You can schedule appointments now. Schedules are open, but we won't see our first patients for 1 more week.
And what kind of services will you be providing patients?
Yeah, so the 2 main occupants of the building will be primary care, brought to you by our general internal medicine clinic, as well as specialty occupational and physical therapists that provide pelvic health therapy and oncology lymphedema therapy.
Right, and I've heard it's kind of an interesting design out there for patients to enjoy. That it's a really interesting space.
Yeah, it is a very unique space for us. We built it with special walls that you'll be able to see that are really customizable and very modern looking. It also features other design elements that are not unique to the health system, but I think are really appreciated, like one-way patient flow. Well, patients will come in one door and leave another one, so it'll be less congested front waiting room, and then also kind of have an on-stage, off-stage approach where patients won't be interacting with where we like our conference rooms or waiting rooms or break rooms or things like that, where we kind of have our staff work. So everything the patient sees will be meant for them and be totally patient care centered.
Yeah, those little things matter. And as our city grows south, folks out there will really, really appreciate it. Ryan, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
And thank you to all of our guests and, of course, our viewers today for being with us. We will see you back here tomorrow at 8. Coming up tomorrow on the Morning Medical Update. With stage 4 colon cancer, survival rates are low. We meet a patient determined not to be a statistic. I'm Jessica Lovell on the next Morning Medical Update. One woman got through the grueling treatment and is helping others follow her path. That's Tuesday at 8.
Subscribe to our Morning Medical Update and Open Mics with Dr. Stites podcast. Now, everywhere podcasts are available.